Hello class, we have just finished one of the C control structures, that's selection structures. Now we'll be going through the repetition structure. So ito yung last C control structure na itatakal natin in this course, right? Just to introduce kung ano yung repetition structures from the word itself, nagre-repeat siya, diba? So the program repeats a particular statement or set of statements, okay, a certain number of time based on some conditions. Okay? So may ibang situations na necessary yung pag-repeat ng set of statements. For example, you want to calculate the grades of all your students in a class. Siyempre, since isa lang naman yung formula to get the grade sa course, siyempre, instead na ulit-ulitin mo yung set of statements na yun for all students, we can just use yung repetition structures. Okay? It's also called an iteration structure, and since it's repeating, parang may loop na nangyari. So it's also called a loop. Just like the selection structure, it also requires a logical expression that needs to be evaluated. And I will be discussing three repetition structures in C. First one is the while loop, which is the main content or the main content for this video. And then next is do while, and finally the for loop. Okay, for this content, I'll be just discussing the while loop. So, ano nga ba ito? Ito yung syntax niya. You have while and then the logical expression, tapos yung statement na i-execute niya. Essentially, yung loop, ganito lang siya, uh, ganito lang siya nagpa-function. So, you have an expression, yung logical expression here. Okay. So, just like yung selection structure, may logical expression din na magiging basis ng decision making natin. When this evaluates to true, may gagawin siyang statement or may execute siyang statement. And yung statement na yan will just keep on being executed while, okay, kaya while yan, while the logical expression remains true. Okay, once maging false siya, mag-exit siya ng loop. Okay, kaya sa tinawag na loop kasi paulit-ulit siya. Okay, as long as true pa, while true pa yung value or yung value ng logical expression natin. Okay, itong statement na to can be either a compound statement or a simple statement. Okay, yan yung tinatawag na body of the loop. And then yung value ng expression, kapag true siya, mag-execute lang yung statement. Okay, so yun lang basically yung use nitong while loop. Okay, as long as true, while the logical expression is true, the statement keeps on being executed. Okay. So, kapag yung loop natin never magiging false yung logical expression niya, yung statement na-execute endlessly. So, that's called an infinite loop. Let's look at this example. And an integer is declared and initialized with the value of 0. And then, ganamitan ng while loop. While daw yung I is less than or equal to 20, magpiprint siya ipaprint niya yung value ng I, di ba? Print niya yung value ng I and a white space here after. Okay? And then after that, after niya i-print yung value ng I, dadagdagan niya yung value ng I na 5. Okay, so since nag-start siya sige, isa-isayin natin per iteration. So for the first iteration, yung value ng I natin is 0 kasi yung initialize while declaring the value of I na-initialize siya to the value of 0. So for our first iteration, ang value ng I is 0. Siyempre, true yun, itong logical expression na to kasi 0 is less than 20 eh. So this is 0. So since true siya, i-execute itong nasa loob, yung nasa body ng while loop. Ano ba yung nasa loob? Ipiprint niya yung value and then isang space. Ano ba yung value niya ay 0 and then space. Okay, and then after niya i-print, dalagdagan yung value ng I ng 5. So, after the first iteration, yung value ni I natin, naging 5 na. Okay, so yan na i-carry over niya for the next iteration. Okay, so for our second iteration, yung I natin 5 na. But before that, let's just define itong I na ito as the loop control variable. Why? Kasi yan yung magiging basis kung kailan na-exit yung program natin sa loop na ito. So, kinokontrol niya kung kailan lalabas ng loop. Okay? So, that's the loop control variable. Okay? So, like what I've said, yung I natin, yung value na is 5 na. So, for our second iteration, yung value ni I is 5. And since 5 is still less than 20, this evaluates to true. So, gagawin niya ulit to. Okay, execute niya ulit to. Print the value of I, which is 5. So, i-output niya 5. Okay, so yung 0 kanina, may space, and then 5 naman ngayon, and another space. A white space. Okay, so yan na yung nasa screen mo after the second iteration. Okay, na-print niya na yung value ni 5, and then a white space. So, dadagdagan niya naman ngayon ulit ng another yung value ng I natin with 5. Okay, natutunan natin sa first module na this can also be written as I plus equals 5, diba? So, you can also use this syntax. So, 5 plus 5 is 10. So, now, after the second iteration, ang value ni I na is 10. So, yun yung i-carry niya sa third iteration. Okay? So, for our third iteration, I is equal to 10. And since I is less than 20, this relational operator, this evaluates to true pa rin. Okay? So, i-execute nyo pa rin yung nasa loob ng while loop. I-print niya yung value ni I, which is 10. So, yung kanina, 0, 5, 0 space 5 space 10. Okay, so yan na yung i-print niya. And then, nadagdagan niya ulit yung value ni I ng 5. So, your I will now have a value of 15 for the fourth iteration. So, for the fourth iteration, I equals 15. Yung nasa loob ng yung logical expression natin, mag-evaluate pa rin to true kasi less than 20 pa rin si 15. So, piprint niya ulit si 15. So, 0, space, 5, space 10, space 15, space. Okay. And after printing, dadagdagan niya ulit yung value ni I ng 5. So, your I now becomes 20. For the fifth iteration, I now is 20. This is still true, di ba? Kasi less than or equal eh. So, 20 is equal to 20. So, true yan. Print niya si 20. 0, space 5, space 10, space 15, space 20, space, and add another 5 kay 20. So, your I, after the fifth iteration, the value of I now becomes 25. Okay, so, yun yung gagamit niya for the sixth iteration. Again, yung loop control variable natin, ang value na is 25. So, comparing it to 20, hindi na magsasatisfy itong condition na ito. Okay, so yung logical expression natin na ito will evaluate to false kasi 25 is not less than 20. It's not less than or equal to 20. So, hindi niya gagawin ito nasa loob ng loop. Kasi nga false na siya. So, mag-terminate na. Lalabas na siya sa while loop. Right? So, magpo-proceed na siya sa next line. So, yung next line is line 12. Yun ay execute no program. Right? It's simple to understand. So, yun lang yung while loop. So, looking at the output, so as what I have explained, ang magpapakita 0 space 5, space 10, space 15, space 20. Okay? So, may space pa dyan. So, yun na. So, from here, meron din tayong additional note na pwedeng sabihin. That would be, if you omit yung ito, I equals I plus 5, magkakaroon ka ng infinite loop. Why? Kasi yung I mo will infinitely become or will infinitely have the value of 0. Okay, never magiging false itong logical expression na ito. Kasi hindi mo pinapalitan or hindi mo dinagdagdagan yung value ng loop control variable. Okay? So, yun yung effect kapag hindi mo nilagay nilagyan ng ganito. Since hindi nagbabago yung loop control variable mo, yung value niya is 0 lang lagi. So, piprint lang siya ng magpiprint ng 0 since yung value ni I is 0. So, infinite loop ang tawag doon. Okay. Another thing, okay, is that you should initialize your control variable before executing the loop. Okay, so pag wala itong I equals 0, okay, hindi siya na-initialize sa 0, parang int I lang yung ginamit mo. Di ba kapag nagde-declare tayo ng variable, di ba initially yung laman yung value is a trash value, so possible greater than 20 yun. So, pwedeng false agad pagdating niya dito sa logical expression. So, pwedeng hindi niya ma-execute yung nasa loob ng loop natin. Alright? Okay, so again, number 1, you should always put an edit or update to your loop control variable para at some point maging false yung logical expression natin. Secondly, you should initialize the value of your loop control variable. And then, look at this. If yung two statements in the body of loop are interchanged, for example, inuna mo itong I equals I plus 5 kaysa yung printf, ang mangyayari is magsa-start lang siya sa 5 kasi inuna mo dagdagan ng 5 yung I, di ba? Kaysa i-print yung value ni I. So, for the first iteration, di ba, I equals 0. Since true ito, ang gagawin niya una, mag-add siya ng 5 sa I. So, your I now becomes 5 here sa 9th line pa lang. Tsaka mo siya ipapaprint na I plus 5. I mean, tsaka mo siya tama. Tsaka mo siya ipapaprint na I. Okay? So, yung value ni I natin is 5. Okay? So, instead of 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, magiging 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay? Kasi nauna ka nag-add ng 5 before printing the value of I. Okay? Easy to gets pa. Next would be this one. If a semicolon is placed at the end of the logical expression, while I is less than or equal to 20, then the action statement of the loop is empty or null. The statements within the braces will not form the body of the while loop, right? So, mangyayari dito, kapag inalis mo to, pag nilagyan mo to ng semicolon, parang ang nangyari is, may while ka dyan, pero walang laman. Okay, kasi this is for the end of a statement, diba? Hindi naman statement yung while na ito. So, parang ang nangyayari is, essentially, ang effect niya is ganito. Okay, so meron kang blank or empty na statements. Okay, and then ito, magpiprint lang siya ng value ni I, which is 0. Tapos dadagdagan yung value ng I equals 5. Yun lang. 0 lang yung magiging output ng code kapag inalis. Huwag nilagyan mo ng semicolon after the while statement or after the logical expression ng while. Okay? Hindi siya syntax error, kaya hindi mo siya makikita as an error. Kasi valid pa rin yung syntax mo. Right? Again, it's important, ulit-ulit, to initialize your loop control variable para may first value siya. And then, second is to update yung value ng loop control variable y para at some point, yung value ng expression natin, ng logical expression natin, which contains the loop control variable, becomes false at some point para makapag-exit ka ng while loop. So, ito yung general design ng while loop. First, initialize the loop control variable, and then while, write the expression, the logical expression, which test yung loop control variable, and then sa loob ng block ng while or yung body ng loop, may set of statements including the updating of the loop control variable. Okay? That's a basic. That's the most basic thing or the most important thing kailangan present sa while loop. So while loops take on various special forms depending on the means of repetition used. Dalawa yung i-discuss natin. The first one is a counter-controlled while loop, while the other one is a sentinel-controlled while loop.